Look what I didn't do. God damn it. Welcome to the Patreon. Here for something of a special occasion, a first time watch for myself. I've brought one that I would consider an expert. That may be me talking out of my ass. Of the era, especially. And then one is just an expert in just anything that's ever been on film. He's seen it. Ladies and gentlemen, first, Mr. Lauren Dixon. Thank you for
Hey,
being here.
hey, Steak, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. How have you been? We haven't graced the same screen in a little while.
Yeah, it's been a moment, right?
Thank you.
This was really exciting though. You reached out and you're like, I'm doing Freaks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a film for everyone.
It hasn't been a film for me to this point. So
And I'm sure we'll get into it, but I mean, even people who just seen stills or just take back and they're going, I'm not sure I want to do that. But I love this movie. I love this movie.
that's great to hear. So let's see what we have. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest, Mr. Dan Shine. What's going on, Danny boy?
What's up, Steak? What's up, Lauren? You picked a good one tonight.
Thank you. And for everyone here on the Patreon, next Tuesday we will be doing a public episode. Well, not we, maybe these guys. We'll see. There's a post up now with a poll pick from these movies. They're all Februarys of years past. Some of them might be a good watch and a good time, and then there's Diary of the Dead. So check
We're
that
not
out.
doing that. I won't be there for that.
It's no Freaks.
No. But anyone watching, nobody live right now, but maybe that changes. Who knows? I have a link in the description to go ahead and watch it. We'll sync it up there. Or if you have HBO Max, it's on there. If it's easier to do that, you'll do that. But yeah, so we're going to get started. Let's not futz around too long. I'm going to count down from 3 to 1. When I say play, you press play. We're going to watch a movie. So, are you folks ready here?
Let me get that link just so I have two things going, just in case they screw it up.
I'm ready to go.
Nope, that's not it.
Lauren planned ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, jeez.
I even got the subtitles set, so we're good.
Yeah, I should do that too, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
There we go. I think I know the movie well enough, but that will help. I think I'm good.
I don't know, I'll throw the link in there anyway, real quick.
Okay.
You wanna jump to it?
Yeah, I'll jump to it just in case something funky goes in. I don't want to turn it into the Suspiria 2018.
So what's the running time on the version that you're linking to?
It is an hour, 2 minutes, and 3 seconds.
Cool.
That's what you want.
We'll talk about the reason I asked that in a little bit, but
Okay.
because there are two very different cuts of this movie.
That's gonna be interesting then. God, I'm fucking nervous. Hey,
Well,
go ahead, Lauren.
Well, the good news is only one of them has been available on home video, so it's like,
okay,
realistically, this is the version you were going to get.
Yeah. Is the whale supposed to be 4-3?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Just a question for nobody. Nothing, guys. we're not live.
Oh, it might have started. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are you ready, Dan?
I'm good to go. Sorry for that delay.
Lauren is ready. I'm ready. Ladies and gentlemen, 3, 2, 1, play.
There we go. So I know
much less majestic.
I know Lauren knows this, but for anybody that's curious, it is based on a short story called Spurs by Todd Robbins.
Metro Goldwyn Mayer presents Todd Browning's production of Freaks.
So Browning had been in the business basically from the beginning of the American film industry. He directed silent films. Before that, he actually had been a carny with his parents. And then in an early silent film shoot, he'd been involved in a train accident of all things. And at that point, he'd ended up basically going in and out of hospitals for years. And he became fixated with amputees and people who'd been disfigured in accidents, and that led him to be very sympathetic to people who'd been through that kind of trauma. And he then applied that to his carny days, and that's where this movie comes from. There's also a film before this in 1925 called Unholy 3, which serves as a good primer for this movie. If you love this, Unholy 3 is not as good a film, but it's a good primer for this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one that actually a lot of people have not seen, but it is worth checking out. This was initially conceived as a Lon Chaney film. Didn't end up doing it.
And it's one of those rare instances where that worked better for the film, because they just decided to do the unthinkable, which is just hire people with deformities and birth defects, which would never happen today. But it really wouldn't happen then either. That's the problem this film had. It made really bold choices.
It really did. And of course, as you can imagine, at the time, actors were not treated particularly well I think they were kept separate because they creeped people out.
Oh, wow.
I mean, when you really watch this in the context of like 1932, in your head, just imagining how shocking this would be to an audience at that time. It's really quite amazing. And the stuff that is not in the film, for that matter, with that reaction to that particular ending.
So there was also a sensitivity, because a lot of the freaks in the film are amputees. You got to remember that World War I had brought back a ton of American soldiers missing limbs. So there was also like a deep societal uncomfortableness with anything they saw as exploitive. Also, just the memory of war. It's just it was you're putting what on screen. But here's the thing: like this film, Browning is obviously best known for Dracula, right? That's the thing. But the thing is, this is in the same way that James Whale, made Frankenstein, and when he was approached, hey, we need another movie from you. With Bride of Frankenstein, he shot for the hills. He went for as far as he could. He wanted to do something creative and fun and big and transcendent of the genre that he helped define. Well, Browning did the same thing with this film. You got to realize this. He made this immediately after Dracula, and this is a big, bolder film. It's a better film, and both men made kind of genre-defining films because they weren't going to settle for what they'd created themselves.
Yeah, it was also a huge failure in many ways.
Oh, yes.
Killed his career, which goes to show, not his last movie, of course. But,
okay, I was going to ask, was it
no
kill it, or did it?
Well, it
definitely
seriously
crippled
it. This was a huge flop coming off of Dracula 2, which you really have to admire him as a filmmaker, because obviously it wasn't lost on him that this was going to be, very controversial.
So this was a movie that I would see in all because I collected horror reference books as a kid. Like if I could get a book that was like, oh, monsters of the movies, right? And there would always be a photo from this film in there, but very little information. And the reason is very simple. This thing was not in circulation. There was not repository screenings out there. It was not on television. It was only issued on Laserdisc in 86. It wasn't even on VHS until 91. Now, some people had bootlegs in circulation, but I was too young for that at that point. So the first time I saw it was on Laserdisc, probably about 88 or 89. But this was a film that you couldn't really get you couldn't really see this movie for many years without
Oh,
extreme
wow.
efforts. And
Yeah.
for that reason, it was definitely kind of a rarefied film. And that runs the risk, of course, of you thinking it's going to be more than it could possibly be. But this is the rare film that turns that on the head. And as you're seeing right now, that is not a green special effect. That is real.
No.
That is legit. If you're really interested in sort of the old school sideshow, there's a lot of documentaries on this film, but of course these were real performers, and it's fascinating to dig into the actual history, the life and death of many of these performers, because when things in the 60s, which ironically is when there started to be somewhat of a revival in Europe for this film, renewed interest in it, things got very politically correct. So sideshows roughly around the 60s sort of stopped becoming a thing. Many people like this ended up in mental asylums because they couldn't get work. And say what you will about exploiting them, but a lot of them for that era had pretty good lives and made a decent living. So it was really quite tragic what happened to some of these people.
Yeah, and let's be clear: mental asylums then, even in the '60s, were fucking living, breathing horror shows.
Yeah. What is it? The
it took
Molly's is something to look into. There's
the Geraldo, that expose he did, fucking asylum on Long Island, I think. Late '80s? I can't remember what year. I can't remember the fucking name of the place either now. But like, just that one spot was so bad that this country had to like course correct for all of that shit. Like,
yeah, I'm trying to come up with the name too. It's the place with the death tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this film and a few others, very notably Congo with a K, were responsible for a lot of backlash towards the genre in general, because we think of these films kind of as kids' entertainment. And even back then, it was more acceptable for family entertainment, and this wasn't. And Congo was not. Congo dealt with subjects like racism and rape and and explicitly, like, not that it was on screen, but I mean, they didn't hide the subject matter, and it made people uncomfortable to take this genre seriously. So what happened is, in both America and in Britain, in 1937, the studios voluntarily, under pressure from the governments, stopped making horror films for a year. We went a year without horror films being produced in this country, primarily because of this and Congo and a couple other films like Black Moon, which, by the way, if you have not seen Black Moon, phenomenal film. But that's how strong the reaction to this movie was.
Yeah.
It very nearly derailed the entire genre.
We hear a lot of stories that are often exaggerated or just part of BS marketing campaigns about people passing out in the theater, running out of the theater. In this case, I fully believe it, because I just can't imagine an audience in 1932 coming in and experiencing something like this. I tend to believe there were some people that fainted in the theater.
Well, like I said, I've never seen it. I've seen like a couple quick clips. There's a Return of the Living Dead special edition DVD that has throws clips of that. And from what I remember, maybe I saw it somewhere else, but it was like dark, like a rainy, dark night scene.
It's the train scene. It's always the train scene.
And it's just it. I'm like, what is that? That's terrifying.
Which, by the way, I mean, again, Todd Browning had been in that train accident, so he interjected it here. This is like strangely autobiographical, like through his funhouse mirror.
there are some films around this time, and exploitation films that never really get talked about. A lot of pre-code stuff like Ingagi, which
Maniac.
yeah, that are
Mm-hmm.
very fascinating.
Maniac is a film with 6 topless scenes in it.
Yep.
So people's impression of this
Pre-code?
30s,
Wow.
yeah. The code goes into force, technically goes into effect in 34, but it doesn't really roll out till 35. Yeah, I mean, people have the wrong impression of. They think that it was a safe society and that nothing transcendent could ever be on screen, but that's not real. That's just people, I guess. I don't know, being prejudiced towards their time that they're living.
Yeah, so all those stuffed up, I couldn't show that back then. It's like,
well, but what's more disturbing? I mean, when we get to the train scene at the end of this film, is that more or less disturbing than any of the CGI clusterfucks you're going to see this year in theaters?
it's true.
So. Also, I just want to point out, like, we always talk about in 35, Bride of Frankenstein comes out and there's all that camera motion in it, and that was considered groundbreaking. This movie has more, like, it has more, and it's what 2.5 years earlier. So there's a lot here. Browning, unfortunately, gets thought of as the Dracula guy. Another thing that people, unless you follow Browning, the most famous lost film of all time is one of his. So London After Midnight.
Yeah. Which for some people that, of course, were around in 1927, some people say it wasn't great.
Most people say it wasn't great.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would lose my mind if I actually got to see it, but yeah.
Well, people were still seeing it on television through the 60s, so
yeah.
It's remarkable. There was so few prints in circulation for the thing that was actually like a midday, like on a Saturday broadcast.
It's wild to me. I've always felt like surely it's got to happen at some point, but
I mean, unless that's one of the stations that played it kept a copy, which I obviously weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still hold out hope that someone pirated it for another country.
That's what I kind of. Although I don't know, clock's ticking. If it's in a closet somewhere.
Well, I mean, you don't have to worry about color fade. The irony of safety film is that it actually kind of endures worse than nitrate. Nitrate won't degrade as much as it will just, maybe cause a fire hazard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's true. Like film, you can look at a print from this era, from the 30s, and the film will hold up better as a projectable film than something made in the 70s.
Okay.
Simply because the color fade on Eastman and Kodak, you're gonna watch a red screen. That's what you're gonna watch.
Shouts out to Kodak though. Rochester, New York.
Rochester, the home of the Jet Black Bears.
Oh, that's right.
I saw the reunion. I saw the reunion show at the Loving Cup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because they did a place up here called Montage Music Hall. I want to say 2011 or 12. Maybe it's a little later than that. I'm not sure. And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing here of all places? And I look it up and okay.
Not the original singer though.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I didn't get to see him. I'm like, huh? Like at that time, I literally only knew the song off the soundtrack.
I got my copy of Sundown on Venus signed by everyone but the singers because obviously he's not. I wasn't gonna have the new singer sign the whole record. That didn't make
No.
I had him sign the new CD, but Postmodern Ghosts, which is a good record. But I mean, most of it is like re-recorded versions of old songs.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a couple new tracks on it that are very good, but I wish it was just an EP of the new songs, to be honest.
This movie, of course, also inspired a lot. Steak, I don't know if you are an American Horror Story fan, but Freak Show
Okay.
borrowed
No, I'm not, but
heavily from this. There was even an Asylum remake of this called, believe, Freaks or Freaked.
with a Z.
Yeah, they didn't do the Z gimmick, but Ice-T was in it. Very just influential, and like I said, just sideshow culture around this time is so interesting to me. You can pick any of the actors portraying the freaks that they all have just amazing stories. It's so worth diving into. A hell of a rabbit hole. And I know a lot of people won't watch films from this era, just they think they're bland, but there's some controversial stuff. Not to name drop other things, but Child Bride from 1938. Not a chance in hell.
No.
You're gonna see that today.
To be fair, that was a specialty market film.
True, but yeah, couldn't happen today. And yes, it's about that.
Yikes! I just say let's watch it, but the more you've talked, the several words after you said Child Bride, I went, we can find something else.
The actress in that actually did the convention circuit too later in her life, which I don't know, it would be Shirley Mills. Be interesting to ask her, or had you been able to ask her about it, because wow.
These babies are having a fight, and it's making me sad.
It's but here's the thing, like this movie in many ways was remade as Basket Case 3. I mean, I mean basically it was, but it's interesting, like this movie treats the quote unquote freaks with such humanity. They're so much better than normal people, all the normal people.
Yes.
And when either Basket Case 3 or The Mutations, the 70s film with Donald Pleasance, they don't treat they try to be like this, but they treat them as like monsters. And it loses everything that makes this film special in the process. Big rubber monsters are not what this movie's about, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah, and I hate to bring it up. I feel like a fucking delivery boy in Texas when I do, but because it's always what you hear about the movies. Obviously, it's potentially terrifying depending on your fucking your gut, but also it shows that doesn't just because you look weird doesn't mean you're a fucking monster. Lots of monsters look real nice, and working with the developmentally disabled like I do now, so fucking true. Like, there's 8 guys. They're the sweetest fucking kindest people ever, and the fucking people that take care of them are disgusting, and I want to kill them all. Not all of them, most of them, just most. I think legally that's fine.
I think there is a catch and release limit, right? So I mean that's another thing that this film has in common. I wore a Bride of Frankenstein shirt for a reason, because there's a lot of similarities between these films. A lot of similarities. They both also take the idea of what was earlier, just a couple years earlier, the monster becomes the protagonist. In Bride of Frankenstein, Pretorius, the regular scientist, is the villain. The monster is not the villain anymore. And here, exactly, you'd expect the people who don't look like us to be the other, but they're not. They're us. They are our point of view characters, and the normal-looking people are the ones that are the space alien monster, psychopaths. So it's just interesting that both films elevated the genre in kind of similar ways. I do think Bride is a better film than this, but I think that this is still one of the best things the genre has ever produced.
Oh, yeah. This one's definitely essential. I think it's just if you're a horror fan, you really should sit down and watch this.
I mean, even on this laptop, this is, I don't remember what the ratio is. Not the ratio, the fucking whatever.
Possible
The resolution.
Resolution. Thank you, Lauren.
No problem.
I don't know what the resolution is on this, but it looks nice. The black and white, the different shades they're in it's easy to watch. It's like I don't know what it is. If it's hypnotic's probably not the word, but
the
I feel
Earl
like
family.
you get so much more texture on this. It's weird.
I think color is difficult to do right, and I think we still haven't really honestly done it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. It's like color film is not. It doesn't exist in as many shades or as many variations as real life, and either does it digital either. Even though there's a much wider palette that's technically possible.
Mm-hmm.
So black and white, while it doesn't have the color, feels more real. It feels like everything has weight and structure.
That might be what it is, yeah. But I think the acting is because as much for me anyway, as much as it's they couldn't show that back then kind of thing is in my head. Also, like I always say, hey, they're all vaudeville actors. They're all terrible. It's all overacting and like Una O'Connor is kind of that, but fuck, I wouldn't want her any other way. She is amazing. Everything she steals the show.
Oh yeah, in both Invisible Man and in Bride, definitely.
Oh God. But there's so much like great subtle acting in these old movies.
See, what's on screen right now is such a point I love. The fact that we would never think that if we had to walk on our hands that we'd wear gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's just one of those details that makes the film just kind of like it shows you a slice of humanity, right?
Yeah,
that you wouldn't expect.
There's a lot of subtle things you pick up every time you watch this movie.
Right. So the man walks on his hands, and we have a painting of a seal behind us to reflect kind of the other, right?
Yeah.
Because they move kind of in the same way. There's a lot of that throughout the film. The set design is very, very on point.
It's one of those films that makes me wish I could just kind of go back in time and experience, an old school sideshow like this, because it's gone.
It's also just like, so the Ant-Man movie that came out this week, I'll never see because my God, it looks like CGI vomit all the way through. But
yeah,
but like I look at that and they're trying to do an exotic world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel exotic to me. It feels like nonsense built in a computer. But this looks like an exotic world to me, and this is something that probably is pretty close to something that existed.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's that famous Charlie Chaplin story that led to the most terrifying episode of the X-Files.
Right.
Where, look that one up if you want to be disturbed. Yeah.
Home.
Oh, yeah, I've seen. That's the only episode of the X-Files I've ever seen.
Oh, at some point, watch the Erlenmeyer Flask. It's like this, the season 1 closer. It was the episode because like the first whole season of X-Files is kind of like, is it really aliens or is it not? It's kind of wishy-washy. And that's the episode who goes, nope, it's fucking aliens.
Such great TV.
It's good. I think like 2 years ago, Jay said, you need to watch this one, if nothing else. Okay. And I was enthralled, but also didn't really want to watch more. It was a great episode. It's fucking beautiful.
There's nothing like that episode in the rest of the series, though.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be X-Files without Night Stalker, though.
Kolchak.
Yeah, Kolchak. Which Chris Carter has said before.
He kept wanting to get Gavin on the show, and Gavin kept saying no. That's hilarious.
Unfortunately, yes to some dicey stuff, so I'm kind of surprised.
I think Kolchak was his thing, and he thought that anyone that tried to do it was like infringing on his turf.
Yeah.
this is another thing they keep making a point in this movie. Like, so there's that conversation about smoking cigars, and and obviously the drinking is here, and it's like, it's kind of showing like, if you were a small person, like a regular glass of alcohol is now what? How much more is that? What is a regular cigar doing to the lungs of someone who has, just physically a third of the lung capacity?
Is that Ving Rhames?
It's part of him.
That man married and had kids, so he led
No kidding.
a life. Yeah.
Well, goddamn. He still had the most important appendage.
He did.
So, what makes this a horror film is different. And again, it violates that rule. Like, if horror films are scarier, they're gross. Well, no, this film isn't actually gross. It's uncomfortable. And it's not really scary until it's terrifying. Right?
Yeah.
It really, though, is a film that's using your expectations of the genre to make you uncomfortable and make you uneasy, and you feel this is a tragedy all the way through.
Yeah.
You know bad shit is coming. And when the bad shit comes, it's actually, I don't want to spoil anything for you, Steak, but it's not what you expect. It's a vindication. The scary stuff is going to make you both frightened and extraordinarily happy that it's happening.
Oh, wow.
And how rare is that, right?
Yeah. Generally, it's one or the other.
Well, we don't do complex anymore. We
No.
make Fast and Furious movies. That's what we did.
Yeah, Fast and Furious Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Oh, Fast and the Furious 11 Freaks.
They're just
And,
fucking street
we
racing.
haven't-
Oh my god. Little Model Ts.
That's just, they're gonna just get as dumb as possible with that. We haven't actually talked about Layla Himes, who of course plays Venus in this film. Also, Island of Lost Souls, which is one of my personal all-time favorites from 1932. Big star.
Best Bella performance ever as the keeper of the law. Yeah.
Yeah.
That film, that is a hard film to watch. that film gets nasty. Island of Lost Souls is great. Steak, have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't.
Oh my god! Talk about a film that could not be made properly today.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so good, and Jesus Christ, they've never been able to do it again properly. So
that's the irony. Yeah. Island of Dr. Moreau. I feel like. I mean, I don't know why they can't, or at least do a better job, even if they can't live up to Island of Lost Souls. And I do highly recommend any movie fan check out the Richard Stanley documentary on the process of making Island of Dr. Moreau from 1996. One of the best movie documentaries out there.
Lost Souls?
Lost Souls, the doomed journey of
Yeah.
Richard Stanley.
It's interesting. I like that documentary because it doesn't let him off the hook either. It doesn't. It's definitely like everyone had the wrong ideas on this.
Yeah.
And Marlon Brando was actively trying to destroy the film.
He was, and
actively trying to destroy. Val Kilmer just had too big of an ego to.
Yeah.
So, what's the best way to watch that? Then you watch the documentary, then the movie, and then the documentary.
The best thing to do is to get a hold of the Criterion disc of the original.
Okay.
Watch that first, and then watch the
Lost Souls.
Yeah, and then watch the Island of Dr. Moreau and be disappointed and weirded out. Because even though that film's fascinating, it's horrible. And then watch the documentary. That's the order I'd put it in, because then you'll get an appreciation, because you'll get the great, and then what went wrong, and then why it went wrong.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it does really it's not just, oh, the studio's bad, they didn't let him execute his vision. It gets some of the producers' point of view where it's like,
Mhm.
you know, this guy probably wasn't meant to direct the studio film. You know, he
Oh.
couldn't handle the stress. I'd say the same thing in some ways for George Romero, who had a pretty rough time on Land of the Dead. It's just he was not used to working in that environment. And
I,
I'm a great filmmaker, but you know,
I always feel that Monkey Shines is the film that broke George Romero. The reason that is because Monkey Shines loses what makes George Romero. It's fine as a film, but it loses that Romero touch. It feels like the '80s horror rather than a Romero film specifically.
Mhm.
And I feel like he produced something that he knew wasn't, I don't want to say special, but it wasn't exceptional. And this is a guy who made exceptional movies. Night Riders, Night of the Living Dead. I mean, I'm not a fan, but Dawn of the Dead.
Day of the Dead.
Right. But I mean, those are exceptional films. And then Monkey Shines is, it would be hard pressed to find anyone saying it's exceptional.
Yeah, I'm glad to at least hear you say that Dawn is exceptional, even if you don't like it.
It's groundbreaking, certainly.
Yeah.
And it's important. I just find it really dull. And I have problems with the character development. Listen, all the performances are fine. Yeah. That movie has pacing problems. That's really what it all comes down to. It's just it's a slog for me.
I'll agree with that, to be totally honest. I mean, looking objectively, there is a point right before, you know, the big kind of crescendo where it's just, come on, we get it. Okay, he's dying, good, whatever, you know, but I still fucking love it. Just think, Ken Foree in that is one of my favorite performances of anyone. I don't know.
I agree, but I think it's his charisma, not his performance.
Sure, and that's probably it. I mean, Joe Grizzly also ranks up there with me, so it very much might be just cool, and you can tell.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like Richard Roundtree is not perhaps a great performer, but as Shaft, he's fucking perfect. You know, I mean, Shaft's big score is one of probably for the blaxploitation years, probably the best film that was made. Now Shaft in Africa has issues, but definitely it feels like two different movies. But I don't know. I like Black Shampoo a lot as well, but whatever. You see, I do know stuff besides horror, just not the shit people like.
So there are people really busting your hump about what comedy movies you like.
I've never connected with. Well, sure, but I don't think most people would laugh the way I laugh at Pumpkin. I will tell you that when I saw it in theater, and when they leave him on the beach for 20 minutes of screen time, and I'm fully aware of what they're doing, and I'm like, holy shit! They go back, he's all sunburned and shit. I'm like, this is the best film ever made. And the miniature bus going off the cliff at the end, holy hell. So good. Pumpkin is a great film.
It is. I'd like to see that get a reissue on Blu-ray so people could discover it.
So my understanding is that producer is waiting for some huge payday to give to relinquish the rights, and that's just never going to happen.
No, that's not going to happen.
And he's losing his time to do it, because by the time he finally gets an offer he likes, Physical Media will be gone. So
yeah, that's a shame.
Hold on to your DVDs, kids.
So many of the also the Hilton sisters, who are the Siamese twins. I mean, what lives? I mean, of course, they were vaudeville performers as well. They knew Harry Houdini. Just so many things, even beyond the movie, to me are just absolutely fascinating about Freaks. Many of these actors actually lived for a very long time, and it's a shame, again, since their profession died, most of them, you know, died in poverty, which is really tragic.
You know, it's fascinating you mentioned Houdini. And I promise this will somehow get back to freaks. But so Harry Houdini wanted to break into publishing so badly, but he couldn't write. He tried. He was miserable. He wanted, though, to be the Edgar Allan Poe of his generation. So he contacted a major New York publisher, and they really liked the work of H.P. Lovecraft, who was at that point in Weird Tales and a few small press magazines.
Yeah.
And he ghost wrote a short story for Harry that was published under the byline by Harry Houdini called Imprisoned with the Pharaohs. And now it's fully acknowledged as Lovecraft, and Harry Houdini had nothing to do with it. But the funniest thing about that is, at the time, Harry Houdini was like the biggest star in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he needed Lovecraft, who was an unknown basically to pop culture, to sell the short story, to produce a short story. Today, we're quickly getting to the point where there's a generation who have no idea who Harry Houdini are whatsoever. And H.P. Lovecraft, the guy who died thinking no one would remember him, his legacy is assured.
I have a Cthulhu cereal box overhead.
Exactly. We don't have a Houdini cereal box.
You don't have a Houdini cereal box.
So, Steak, did you ever go to Coney Island and visit the sideshow where Houdini got his start?
No, never been.
Well, it's not there anymore. I saw it a week before it closed. We friends went out because we wanted to be there before it closed, and the show was kind of lame because it was kind of lame, but it was amazing to know that you were sitting literally on the same benches where people would, and it wasn't a big it was maybe 30 seats, but you were sitting on the same benches where people sat to watch Houdini perform. Wow. Yeah. So how cool is that?
It's American history, baby.
Right. It's gone now.
Yeah.
As is the Cyclone and everything else cool on Coney Island, but whatever.
Be careful, lady.
Yeah, she's getting there.
Not some very unpleasant things.
We're not that far from it at this point. I also kind of think with Megan coming out this year, a film I have no interest in ever seeing.
You're not missing anything.
It's underwhelming, yeah.
Well, it's Blum. I get it.
Yeah.
But
she didn't dance though.
No, whatever. They probably had to make that into a Lady Gaga song too. Remove the cramps and put Lady Gaga in there too. But it's like that's where horror is now. That's where domestic horror is now. It's safe. It's so safe. It's stupid. Like, oh, it's kind of child's play, but PG-13, and it's about technology because that's what kids like.
Yeah,
it's a killer app movie basically. And this is what they were doing in 32. How much ground have we lost, really?
It's a shame. I mean, you have to dig for everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just doing the previous show, I like to think somebody would go out and watch Holy Spider. Not that that's a full-on horror film, but yeah, you gotta dig for the good stuff.
Here we go.
I believe this is a Bird Girl.
Yeah. Pretty much all of these characters, there were homages to them in American Horror Story Freak Show.
Okay.
You'll recognize that Naomi Grossman, who played Pepper, the Pinhead. Mm-hmm. I can't recall the actor's name, but Meep was the character that essentially being shown here.
This is like probably the most famous scene, I think.
Oh yeah,
this is one of them. Yeah,
I mean, at least as far as like a pop culture kind of touchstone, for lack of a better term. I guess it's been parodied by everyone in some form or fashion.
Harry Earls.
Part of it is I'm dumb and I just think they're magic, which terrifies me.
You might not be that much that far off because unfortunately, like I
Like
shouldn't
he's
say
put a
unfortunately.
sword in his throat. That's not
Yeah.
real. He's magic.
Penn and Teller can show you how you do that. But what bothers me so much, really, whenever I revisit a film like this, or Most Dangerous Game, or anything from the 30s, are just the best era for horror. They just are because it was so wide. It was such an untouched canvas. People were doing stories about giant apes, and this movie existed alongside Frankenstein and Dracula, and but at the same time, you'd had things like West of Zanzibar, or Black Moon. Um, and it was just anything could happen, anything could go. They were figuring out what the genre could be, and it was getting wider and wider. And like ever since the 70s, we've gotten smaller and smaller. That's how it feels to me. It feels like there's like 3 types of horror movies and that come out domestically, and we just repeat them. Hey, this is the slasher. Hey, this is the haunted house movie. Hey, this is the possession film. Okay, we're back to the slasher now.
I almost feel like the haunted house and possession have to go hand in hand now. So it's like 2.5 things.
And it's sad. I don't know. That's why I preach that we have to start adapting novels, because that's where the creativity is still happening in the genre. Or even if you don't like novels and don't want to read that much, go to comic books. Cullen Bunn has an entire catalog ready for to be exploited. And the first time they did it, it worked gloriously. So let's do more of that. Let's do Harrow County. It's a great book.
Yeah. I don't read a ton of graphic novels, but I did read Harrow County.
It's good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's so much material out there. Famous authors that have never been adapted. I mean, Brian Hodge, Gary Braunbeck, just people that have been on your show. I mean,
but even like really big names, like all of Dean Koontz's stuff hasn't been adapted. How many adaptations have of John Saul's ever been done? You'd think that would be easy to get made, right?
Very easy, yeah.
Those are names I even know. I don't know shit. I don't know the world of books.
Here's the big one: Robert McCammon.
Yeah.
How's it not happened?
It seems like some, Netflix or something. I mean, that they would grab that, or Boy's Life, Gone South. I mean,
there's so many titles, and it's like we're getting to the point where if these things aren't adapted soon, they're not going to be adapted ever. Yeah. Because the reality is we're so divorced. Hollywood thinks of itself as its own creative universe, and they don't need anyone else. Well, the truth is they do. They do, because the screenwriting is just formulaic.
Arrogance.
Uh-oh.
Things just turned. Oh, you can feel it, right?
I can imagine the the audience sweating at this point.
Oh yeah. What is it about dinner scenes in horror? It's like whether Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Saloon, or I mean, that's like there's something about dinner scenes, man, or Pearl.
Yeah,
it's kind of the original in here.
I haven't seen it yet. Is it good?
Oh man,
I think you'll like the menu quite a bit.
I love that fucking movie.
There's a lot more to it than the trailer would suggest.
Yeah, being into food, just obsessive. Look at me, of course.
Best looking cheeseburger ever.
But it just spoke to me in more ways than one. Didn't I told you?
Harry Earls had quite the temper, from what I understand. There's a good portion of a documentary somewhere on his sisters and just what their lives were kind of like. They all lived together and custom made furniture and
So heartbreaking.
yeah.
So this film lost 30 minutes of its screen time after its initial release.
Oh,
There was such because it opened in a few cities initially, and the backlash against the more grotesque imagery was really strong. And they cut the footage, and not all of it has unfortunately been reinstated in any version. There is a slightly longer version that exists.
Oh, okay.
There's some controversy around it because some people claim it's footage that was never properly in the film, that it was outtakes, things that were exercised before release that have been added back. There's a great Famous Monsters article on it if you really want to go back and find it. But as great as this film is and as tight as the narrative is, it's not exactly what Browning intended. And the fact that it's a masterpiece and compromised, again, another similarity with Bride of Frankenstein, which had basically a whole reel removed. Unreal. You know, that's the power of this filmmaking, that even compromised, they stand out. They're bold and creative and forceful.
They didn't kill that baby, did they?
You want that Hasbulla reboot, Steak? Probably be the one to do it. Wheels are turning.
I need it. Oh, good. Holy shit, it looks just like him there. It's a scowl on his face, I think.
I mean, I know she's like a piece of shit, but I mean, just women in the 30s. Jesus Christ. That's another thing we've lost. I mean, she's no Fay Wray, but
yeah.
But who is?
The gal in the doorway is like a busted Laura Dern.
Well, then Laura Dern today.
Fair enough.
People forget how young she was in Jurassic Park, though, with Sam Neill.
Yeah, Wild at Heart and Jurassic Park come out, and she's like this. She looks like a kid.
3 something, yeah.
I feel like that haircut has never gone out of style.
That's the punk kid who took 2 years to graduate. Works at the gas station. Hey guys, I know you're going to be upset, but it looks like July of this year is the last month that Netflix will send discs through the mail.
No,
for real.
I thought they already stopped.
I don't use it. Obviously.
It's still going, but not for much longer.
I heard a couple of years ago that it still was, and I was like, "It's awesome. I hope it never stops. I hope there's just one person." And they decide that, you know what, it's one person, we can afford to just.
I want the fire sale.
Yeah.
Because you know they have all kinds of like old Media Blaster releases that are out of print and shit like that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's probably some fucking gold in there.
Because they don't need that shit if they're not going to rent them.
Yeah.
And because they're going to be used and probably not have original artwork, they're going to sell them dirt cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll be giving those away pretty much.
Just I hope me the fucking movies
in a trash heap somewhere though.
That's terrifying to me. I
think we've found a phobia out of Steak. So let me ask you this, Steak. Would losing all 4 of your limbs be worse or better than losing your sight, hearing, and sense of smell and taste. So you lose 4 limbs or 4 senses. Think about what your existence would be either way and get back to me.
I think I'd have to lose the limbs because technology could potentially fix that.
Yeah, I'll take the limbs because
You're going to live in your head, just in your head, and hope people feed you.
I need to taste things. I can use my eyebrows. Just like the man said.
You communicate by clicks. Oh, man. Got 10 minutes to go. The movie's already making us hate life.
This little peeper. Peeping Tom.
Wouldn't it suck if your name was Tom and you were caught peeping?
Yeah.
That would be it, right?
Well, that was what happened. There was a man named Tom that peeped.
Now everyone knows him for all time. Just like, Thomas. Man, you had to be the one guy in Jesus' circle that didn't quite believe.
The polite way to do it.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine with it no matter how it happens.
Yeah.
As long as we get to that point. Look at those waves in her hair. That's so fucking cool. Come on, women, step up your game. Do shit like that again.
Yeah. No more messy buns.
Did you have any female patrons?
Oh, God, not a one.
Okay. So I don't have to worry about that coming back to haunt me.
No.
They said something about hair and waves.
That was literally rape when he said that.
Olga Baklanova was definitely a very beautiful woman.
Imagine seeing that.
And these are the good guys.
Does he have rickets too?
Tonight they will be ready.
Another film I don't think we had name dropped yet with Olga, of course, The Man Who Laughs, which arguably her most famous film.
Yeah, I mean, most people unfortunately only know that film as kind of the visual inspiration for the Joker, but Conrad Veidt was kind of amazing in it, and it's unfortunate that's all they know.
That one is out there though, so
yep.
Anybody listening to this,
not just out there. I think there was just a remastered Blu-ray last year.
Oh.
Come on, Film Detective, get on Freaks. How much would I die for that?
It's a little weird that hasn't happened.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, the DVD looks phenomenal. So,
yeah,
I don't mean to say that it doesn't need to happen, but it looks phenomenal.
Is that out of print, I imagine, right?
I think the MGM disc is still around.
Okay. I have to grab that then.
I would, because I don't know how much longer any of this older stuff is going to stick around as the market fades. We've hit really choppy waters for sales, like really choppy waters for sales. So I think a lot of the catalog titles days are limited. But again, what streaming service is going to put this movie out?
Well, I mean, HBO Max has it right now, which shocked me, frankly. I'm like, oh, shit. Wow.
You might, I mean, certain things like this maybe, survive. I mean, there's a lot of
Well, this film has pedigree, right? This has patina to it, but something like Svengali, from 31. That no one's streaming that.
Yeah, there's I mean, quite frankly, most of the remaining films that aren't lost anyways. I don't know. I don't know if any future versions of Netflix or whatever we have are gonna care.
Well,
Unfortunately.
the other problem is like already you have anything older than Gen X won't even watch black and white films, pretty much.
No, it's nuts.
So
I forced my sister to watch Bride of Frankenstein. And then I fell asleep and, ruined it with the noise.
oh, with the freight train.
Yeah. We just went to bed.
So
see? That's the littlest badass.
Oh yeah, that's some sure as New York
Holy
street
shit!
crime. Yeah, the Luger.
And then they just have a musician for it all. This is beautiful. That should be required as a part of like a heist or anything. You need a musician, just someone to play a tune. What's this troublemaker doing? What the fuck? I do love those old timey editing tricks that they did, or like the in camera, just like, speed it up real quick. You got to run it through here. Like the jump cuts and shit. There was a pretty big one at the beginning of the movie, which might just be just the age of whatever they're scanning this from.
Yeah, it looks like the frame rate is correct. I think that it's just sped up for effect.
Mm-hmm.
And now, kids, nightmare fuel for 6 minutes.
They missed the boat not doing a mob movie with those two guys. Lil Gangsters.
Feels like a full moon.
What the fuck?
I love this so much. Is there more arresting imagery than this? I don't think so.
Your favorite steak.
You think, well, maybe this will end happy?
Well, depending how you look at it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. It's like it's freaky as fuck, but it's also like glorious.
Yeah, they sped that up, and that holy fuck.
It was the Code of the Freaks. Oh, there's the storm. And a generation got really fucking pissed off. It's a combination of all of their problems.
What the fuck?
The version you guys watched, did the quality just dip for this final scene?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is
Yeah, it's like blown out. It's
yeah. It's this is the reason that I know that the version that plays on European television now, on European cable, is like doesn't have this issue, but apparently the domestic print just does, and it's the same one that's on DVD. Film Detective, get on it. We know someone who works with Film Detective, right? He was on the one stream. No, on the one piss.
Yeah. I
can't remember who it was. We got to get him and like make him do it. And that, my friends, is how you end a horror film.
Wow.
There you go. So, what was your first live impression? Hey.
Unnerving in many different spots for many different reasons. Much more heart than I, because it's called Freaks. Okay. And like at no time was that like really like a nice word. I mean, you know, so it's like, I don't know, this is just fucking like, let's throw rocks at him for an hour. I didn't really know what to expect when I, like, I don't know. When you hear that title or whatever, I guess. Seeing the shit that I saw, still terrifying. It instantly fucking The Train in the Rain. I mean, oh yeah, that's it. Oh no. Great movie though. They all did their part really well. I mean, like the ones that had speaking roles were phenomenal. You know, which I think too, because I have looked into some of the performers like years ago. I don't remember a whole lot, but like Hans and his little doll family, they're German, I believe. So like with like the hold on English that he had was pretty fucking, pretty impressive.
Well, gotta remember, if you came to America, you had to be able to speak at that time. Things were just different.
Yeah, I wish. It's like, I mean, do people go to Spain not speaking Spanish? Like, is that a thing that's done?
Well, yeah, now it is.
Yeah, is it really just that fucking?
Yeah.
Just because there's an app for it, you can get through it.
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much the entire Western world is kind of just multilingual at this point, or should be, because that's the world we live in. I'm not, so again, high school graduate here.
Yeah.
So
hey, me too. All right, I knew a bunch more when I lived in New Jersey. I've forgotten almost all of it, but I was speaking it every night.
Yeah. So my question for you, Steak, on a first view of Freaks, is that the film kind of has an infamous reputation, but by the same rate, like it's balanced now by people thinking since it's old, it has to be tame. Mm-hmm. So it's weird. It's full of this contradiction. Where do you think it comes down? I mean, do you feel that same like outrageous punk rock energy out of it that I feel every time I watch it?
I'm not sure punk rock attitudes. It's what I would get out of it necessarily. But it's not. I certainly don't see where the outrage would come from. Like now, I mean, back then's different, but like this is something I don't think the PC crowd would like eat up. I don't think like they're always the hero. Like they're always treated in a good light. It's not freaks, they're evil, they're monsters, they're gross. Like, no, they're not. This fucking, able-bodied person is just a hideous monster. What we've been talking about the last hour. Like, but I don't know. It's great though. It's a beautiful fucking movie. And I need to own it.
Right?
now.
I,
So,
I think what's really ironic is that you will still get opinions that think like, oh, that was horrible. They were parading them around like that to this day. You will still see that sometimes if you like sift through reviews, which is, pretty crazy. I mean, they were in one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It was a great accomplishment. Some of the ones that lived a little bit later, which I know some lived into the 80s.
yeah.
I kind of wonder what they thought at that point, being that they got to see a little bit of that, revival for it, particularly in Europe.
It also kind of changed how horror films were marketed, because before this, very cagey. It was like always like splashing on screen, "The monster walks." You couldn't really sell this movie that way.
Yeah.
So you started to see, even in the marketing, a little bit more of an adult nature. Again, this film, you could make an argument that it's not even a horror film. I think that's misguided, because I think horror is about more than just scaring or grossing people out. But I think that, in a way, if this film hadn't gone out as a sacrificial lamb, it was never gonna succeed wildly, right? Financially, anyway.
Right.
I don't know that we get ever to the point whereas we can have like something like Night of the Hunter exist. Let alone like eventually get to the point whereas like major studios are willing to produce transcendent horror films like The Exorcist, simply because this is risk in film form. It's not risk averse, which is where we're at with like the Blumhouse world. So I think this film is really important. This, among other films like Black Moon and Congo, for just pushing back the borders and just opening up the world. And this all happened in the early 30s, mid 30s. So I wish that we could get horror fans to embrace this history, because I think they'd enjoy a lot of these films way more than they think they would. And I think they'd also maybe get an appreciation for the fact that we shouldn't settle. I find it absurd that people start to like, oh, Halloween Resurrection isn't that bad. I kind of like it. What are you settling for?
Holy shit!
Right? What are you settling for at that point? Like, they released a 4K box set of the later Halloween films that no one professes to really like, and people like, I pre-ordered it in day one.
Yeah.
Why? Like,
I couldn't think of things because I was told to make a list for Christmas, and I'm like, fuck it, it's $100. They won't buy it. I'll put it on and say, yeah, they did. So I have them, and then that made me buy the other 5, which is
a little bit better, a little more understandable. But
yeah, the only thing is that like, as much as I don't care about slipcases, the fact that 2 of the 5 don't have that little hard outer cover thing it restricts my breathing.
It really freaks you out that I buy used Redbox movies, doesn't it?
No, because it actually came in clutch, because The Empty Man still isn't released on anything, right?
And it's not going to be.
Yeah, so like,
well, there's an Australian DVD. There's an Australian DVD that exists. It's just the movie and the trailer.
Yep.
So it's not worth importing. The copy you have is every bit as good. But again, you're paying for a plastic box and art.
Yeah. So like, yeah, like what was it? Like, was it like a $2 rental or whatever, or you could purchase it for $15? So like either way, like that Redbox is always. I'm the guys from the Scarecrow show still will go to the fucking Redbox and get DVDs and shit. Like, so like it's not dead by any stretch.
It's almost dead, unfortunately.
I'm saying is it shouldn't be. Like, I get that maybe. I don't know. I feel like maybe it's just like
nice.
As much as maybe it's not. Yeah, look at you.
$3. I paid $3 for the Northman on Blu-ray.
What did I pay? I wish I knew what I paid for The Empty Man, but it wasn't much.
No,
it was
when it was
cost
going out
effective, and then I think it was you or Drew hooked me up with the case. I just saw like. I
might have sent you the art. I don't know. I made art. Maybe
that's what it was. He might. I think you sent him the art, and then he sent me the finished thing. Might be what I'm pretty sure is what happened. Then I think it was a collaboration. But
Great. See, that's a great film that only came out in its form because Disney didn't know what to do. 20th Century Fox had made this thing. They didn't know what to do. COVID happened. They would have shelved that thing if COVID hadn't happened.
damn,
It got out because, frankly, they were like, horror films are doing well on the drive-in circuit and the few theaters that are open. Put this thing out.
Yeah.
We'll make some money off it, I guess. And it played for 5 weeks. It was a fair for that time, which was not a successful time for anything with any budget.
Like Jurassic Park was fucking doing numbers again.
Yeah.
Like,
I literally saw Jaws and Jurassic Park as a double feature at the drive-in.
oh my god,
Yeah.
That was that's fun.
cool. Because like I had a fun time. I watched Jurassic World, which not that
I like that movie.
I don't mind it. It's the best of the three new ones by a
Sure.
mile. I think it's good enough. You know, I loved it at the time because I watched it at a drive-in, and the drive-in I watched it at, other than being especially in the middle of nowhere, even as opposed to the one that I live next to now, it was all surrounded by trees. So like that played into the fucking movie. Like it just happened to work for that one movie, but it was so cool.
I know I'm in the minority, but I'll take all three of the new Jurassic World films over those two Jurassic Park sequels.
I like the Lost World, most of the Lost World. I don't like all the San Diego shit. I don't like.
I
But
don't like that movie.
I have enough fun with the rest of it.
Even so, I mean,
And the Raptor stuff, with the fucking
Yeah.
gymnastics, obviously.
It's been a little
It's not a
while.
good. It's not a perfect movie. It's very, very flawed. But
It's been a
I
little
hate
while, but
3.
how did they cover up I mean, maybe I'm just forgetting some of the sequels, but how did they cover up Lost World? Because I feel like that wasn't.
I don't think they ever talk about. They
They just
cover it up
don't
by
ignore
not
it.
acknowledging it. Yep.
That was one thing that always bothered me. I was like, I mean, I know that
There was a
I-
T-Rex in
Park
San
Road.
Diego.
not just that. Think about this. That company took a bunch of dinosaurs off the island that we never found out what happened to.
yeah,
The
yeah.
next film just ignores it. It's like, maybe that didn't. I don't know. Maybe it didn't happen. No, I think those two sequels are really problems. They're just really far from the first film, and the new ones may be shallow in the way modern movies are shallow, but as popcorn films, they're better than a lot of what comes out. So I'm kind of okay with them, all of the new ones, which people don't expect from me. They don't expect popcorn to be okay.
Even co-signing Jurassic World, I was a little like, oh shit. But
Well, I think that's a fun movie.
it's better than as much as I wanted to like it, and the haunted house concept failed in the next one. I think
There's things
There's
I
good
really
parts.
like about that movie.
Ted fucking old Buffalo Bill is good in that. He's a
Think-
fucking this sleazeball,
I love the opening with the island. Just
Yeah.
Is
Yes,
awesome, and
that
that-
is
that-
so cool.
that whole sequence, everything up till they get to the mainland, is kind of like I was like, wow, this is right. This is what it should feel like. And then the movie kind of the scenes that really work and the scenes that don't work as well. But again, I had fun with it, and it's not like something I'm going to watch very often, so
Right.
it's fine. I had a good time at the theater. Cool.
Yeah.
And I felt the way about the newest one too. I mean, I got a bunch of hate from people because it did something different. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it actually did something different. We should be celebrating that.
Yeah.
Did it
No,
work?
it was.
Not really, but it tried to do something.
I admittedly with that one had a better time the second time around, because I was finding out that my contact prescription was wrong. Just that my vision had changed, So I watched it in real D 3D bullshit, whatever. I took the girl and the kid, and then I'm just slowly getting more and more of a headache the whole time. Not having much of a fun time, and I just want to go home. I don't care about this fucking movie. But then I had to take one of the guys 2 days later, and I watched it. And had a blast. It's fun. It's dinosaurs, and it's Malcolm, Grant, and Sadler.
That's like fucking like dinosaurs in the streets of Spain. I mean, it's as close we ever got to the dinosaurs attacks, right?
Yeah.
card series as a movie. So let me ask you a question to bring it back to Freaks for another second. Well, kind of back to Freaks for a second. I know it all depends on whether your patrons want it, but would you consider exploring more 30s horror?
Absolutely. Which is honestly, I've been thinking about it, and you guys have both kind of brought it up. Like, this stuff needs to be shown to people. Unfortunately, I never would, or fortunately, I guess, fortunately for the pandemic, it gave me so much time that I'm like, all right, I'll do it. I'm not going to like it, but I'll do it. And then I went, no, these are good. Some of them better than others. Like Bride of Frankenstein, I walked out like it ranks up there with anything modern or, whatever between modern and then, like whatever the fuck you'd call it, intermediate period. But it's such a good one. Invisible Man as well. That's
See, you're a whale fan.
Yeah. Like Claude Rains, his voice in that fucking film is just, it's so booming and evil. Like, he gets evil. Like, well, he understands it, I think.
Tell me those special effects don't hold up 100%.
They do. All of that stuff did, because it was like they had to make it look good. Like, and I guess like they had all the money you were gonna have. I mean, the castle stuff that came later was a little lesser budget, I would imagine. You could tell, like fucking the skeleton from House on Haunted Hill specifically. Just great.
Yeah, well,
but
you're talking about independent productions that got picked up for distribution too. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's true.
When it's like a producer whose money's on the line versus like a company's money's on the line.
Right. But yeah, for sure, we'll have to try to. I mean, again, it is, if they're gonna
give a crap,
be receptive to it, but because these potentially could be something that I could float at least a teaser out for or whatever, and maybe like hook someone.
Ingagi commentary coming through.
Ingagi.
I don't know about that, but yeah, maybe. I don't know what we'll do. I think with a lot of that stuff, I might want to be a little more prepared for.
Well, let me suggest that you do a little bit of research on Most Dangerous Game, because I think that's the obvious place to go.
Okay.
Because you want to stay away from the Universal Monsters, probably, because too easy.
Those are easy to get into, and they are what they are. Like that material has been beaten to death. So I think without having seen even like a remake of those films, or a different adaptation of the books or anything, like without having seen that, you're still going to know. Okay, got it. Vampire. Yep. Monster parts. Humanity. Like you get the beats. Like they're beaten into time at this point, but. Yeah, so like stuff like Freaks and the other ones that you were discussing in a similar vein earlier. The Dr. Moreau Island of Lost Souls, you said?
Oh, I'd love to do that too.
That'd be another one that sounds interesting, because I would like to kind of go on that. Fuck it, I might end up doing that whole little 3-piece set of the Lost Souls, Dr. Moreau, and then the documentary.
You could also do the 76, 77 Michael York film. Not very good either, but
no.
Basil Expedition?
Check out just the whole run, because they talk about all of those films on the Lost Souls documentary. And it'll make you kind of just want to experience them all. But Island of Lost Souls is the one.
Phenomenal film.
Gotcha. Well, we will keep that in mind.
So people scream out the stake that you need this.
Scream for me.
Scream.
Well, Lauren, you got anything on the precipice?
For the channel, the channel's currently in the middle of a book club, which is hosted by Sam, and
yes.
It's just discussion of my book, and they're doing that right now. I might have something with actually me on camera eventually, but really, I just want people to go out there and buy this thing.
Absolutely,
because that's my world, and quite literally, help make it so that I can like retire someday. So buy the book.
Buy his book, folks, and hopefully Orc will get through it eventually. Hopefully, I didn't just shoot it over to him to just hold on to for a while. Danny, what you got?
Flesh Wound Features, our channel most likely, but we've got new show on Wednesday. We're going to be covering that Vinegar Syndrome made in Hong Kong Blu-ray set, which has some Cat 3 and Cat 3S films that we're going to cover as well. And I don't know, all the smut seems to be doing well. So there you go.
They do love their smut.
Yeah. It'll be like review of random horror movie, 100, 200 views. Then it's like 6,000 for body chemistry. There's a bit of a gap in between those.
It's how that is sometimes. My most viewed thing is a Scary Movie 2 commentary. So
it's YouTube's very random at times.
And it is doing huge numbers for me. It's kind of fucking weird. But that aside, don't forget, if you haven't already, get into the On Perks drawing. Signed copy on your way to you. Courtesy of me and Mike Rainey. He doesn't know anything about it. I don't think he likes it somehow also. But anyway, I have nothing else. Thank you for being a patron. I love you. And until next time, Iris loves you.